Welcome to the Hustle or Bust podcast powered by Paver Art. Our mission is simple: to dive deep into the world of entrepreneurship, small business, and all the success, struggle, and challenges that need to be confronted in the pursuit of growth. We celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit, but perhaps most important, we want you to learn at least one idea that you can put into action immediately to make your investment in time worthwhile. On this episode, we talk about the grit and grind, building resilience in the midst of the journey. From finding the joy through your daily struggles, practicing gratitude, getting your first big win, and the sobering responsibilities that come with business ownership. We hope you find a nugget or two to think about for your journey. Now, I believe this is episode 8. And the title of this episode is Grit and Grind, Building Resilience in the Midst of the Struggle and Journey. Now, I have to be honest, I did not write that intro, or I did not write that title. So I'm going to ask you right off the bat, explain building resilience in the midst of the struggle and journey. I know what I think it means. What do you think it means?
Well, you left off the first two words, grit and grind.
Oh, I did. Grit and grind. That's exactly right.
Which are Paver Art values that we have on the back of our T-shirts that kind of define our core values or behaviors that we value.
Grit, grind, hustle, repeat.
That's right. Grit. I don't know if you've ever read this book. The book title is Grit. Angela Duckworth. I think she's a Harvard psychologist. She talks about this concept of grit, which is building resilience and getting knocked down, but then making sure you get up. It's been a while since I've read it, but I think she did a study that says what makes somebody successful. It's kind of like a Malcolm Gladwell look at success, psychology. So you think about things like intelligence. How important is intelligence in the world of success? So she looked at that, and she basically came to the conclusion, if intelligence counts for 1 point, grit counts for 2. So, okay, you got to be smart, but she's going to value grit more. She's in her analysis, she found that grit, resilience, getting back up, not quitting, keep going, is worth twice of what intelligence is. So I love that word, grit, getting back up. Resilience, it's basically the title is in a small business, in any business for that matter, or a career, I think more than 50%, maybe it's as high as 80% of the day, of the grind, and grind's kind of just that. It's a grind. You got to struggle through the day. You're dealing with adversity, you're dealing with failure more than you're dealing with the wins. So, what we want to talk about today is, in the midst of all that, if 80% is a struggle, trying to get something done, trying to build a business, trying to recruit employees, the 1,000 things that got to get done, if more of it is challenging, I hate to use the word negative, but it's in that light. You're not celebrating massive achievements every single day, all day long.
Right.
If 80% of it's hard work and a grind, how do you find joy in that process? Because if you don't, by its very nature, it's going to beat you down, and it's going to wear your ass out. It's just a matter of time.
And eventually, it ends.
That's right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, episode 8, Grit and Grind, Building Resilience in the Midst of the Struggle and Journey. I got it. I finally got it all. That's a long one. That's a long title. It's interesting. It's interesting that there's a ton of businesses out there. I mean, the American economy is, for all intents and purposes, run by small business. Yes, there are the Fortune 500 companies. There's the market caps in excess of 1, 2, 10, 50, 100, and $200 billion. I mean, that's all very understood. It's all understood. But I believe the lifeblood the lifeblood that runs the engine of this economy is small business.
That's over 30 million businesses.
Yeah, 30. That's a staggering number of businesses in a 50-state territory. It's unbelievable. But when we started this business here, one of the things that was intriguing, and it's right, when you're intrigued and excited, and you're looking at the adventure ahead in regards to a new product.
Euphoria.
You're just, oh my goodness, you can't wait to get in there and get things set up. And the first thing you realize is, we don't have any desks.
Where we're going to sit.
We need chairs.
Right.
Okay. Ooh, we got to get computers. Okay. This, the reality of starting a small business kind of hits you right in the face, but you're still powered by that euphoria, as you said.
How long do you think that feeling lasts?
Well,
because what we're talking about here is feelings, basically, and how do you manage through all of it?
For me, it's the concept, what I call the concept of the first big win. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the little wins are understandable. The little wins are, well, we got the computer, now we know how to run it.
Let's turn it on, right?
Okay, we got the processing and manufacturing equipment, and when we learn how to run that, or when the person who's responsible for that learns how to run that, that's a medium-sized win. The big win, the first big win, is when you land that first big sale. You process that order. You get it out the door, and as that flatbed's driving away with those 21 pallets of material, you just go, wow, okay.
Now you've made it.
That gives you, that powers you into the next level. Keep going, okay. That's proof of success. It validated you. It justifies the time and effort and investment that you've gone through, and all the trials and tribulations. But that first big win, in my mind, is very, very important.
Well, the old axiom is nothing happens until first a sale. So what you described there, the euphoria of the startup, getting the things around you.
Sure.
But you define your first big win as that first market recognition. We want to buy this from you.
And trust me, by the time you usually get your first big win, that euphoria has been deleted.
Right.
Okay. You're now running. You're now running on. You're now running on just the same. You're doing the same things
Adrenaline.
every day, and the adrenaline shot that you get every once in a while. That's what gets you through most of the days. You're still doing the day to day. Okay, that's the grind that you were talking about. The grit. The three of us always had the grit. That's not an issue.
Well, talk about your founding team, because I think it's unusual for a company, a small business, to start with the founding team that we had. Well, in terms of managing the struggle and all of that, you were a triumvirate, the three of you.
Right.
Talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of the 30 million small businesses, mm-hmm. I don't know if they've got the benefit of three heavy hitters as a founding team.
You could look at that as being, that gave us a leg up.
It's an unfair advantage.
I mean, it really did.
Right.
And the fact that you had three guys who were...
And talk a little about the profile.
All relatively successful in what they were currently doing before they went out and started, we went out and started Paver. I don't know that that's unheard of, but I would imagine it's somewhat unusual. But, when you look at the three of us, what kept us going, what kept us doing and grinding it out day after day, what kept us looking towards what we felt was going to be the first big win, and it turned out to be the first big win. That was the 4 intersections in Wildwood, New Jersey. You need somebody who's the champion. You need, because there's days when you come in and you're like, okay, guys, it's been 3 months, and I'm a little down here. We need to have a meeting and discuss. Let's kind of tie up all the loose ends, and let's get pumped up again. Well, you need a champion, okay, and that champion in our case was Mick Soroka. Mm-hmm. This was Mick's idea. This idea was not going to die.
The founder.
Oh yeah, the guy who came up with the idea, who went out and found out about my brother, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the idea is that he was the champion. Every day he came in, you never saw anything other than, this is great, look at what we're doing here, look at what we're building, this has never been done. That constant reminder, hey, hang in there, this is going to work. This is going to work. I know it's going to work. I'm from this world, and I wasn't from this world. Mm-hmm. So I took tremendous solace in what he did. So his input from that standpoint, the champion, I think was very, very important. But then you need somebody who's the pragmatist.
Right.
You need somebody who's the realist, the guy that comes in and says, okay, here's how it really is. All right? Yes, we can do this. And yes, I'm turned on by this idea just like you two are. But here's what it's going to take to get there from a finance standpoint, from a marketing standpoint, from an inventory and operations standpoint. And that was my brother Ken.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got those two, oh man, it's just, that's your security net. We didn't have $1 coming in, but that was your security net. And that,
you had the talent to make it happen.
It's very psychological,
yep.
But it keeps you pumped. It keeps you going. So a very important part of the team is the pragmatist. And then there's the expediter. That was me. Get shit done.
Right.
Okay. Now we all came from that school, from that get shit done school.
Yep.
But my background, I plugged holes that those two didn't have, and they plugged holes that I didn't have. But the holes that I plugged kind of completed that triumvirate, that completed that unit, made that work. Okay.
Talk a little bit about a brief 30 seconds on each of their backgrounds, their skill sets, their experience that they brought to the table.
Mick owned his own business. He basically, when he got out of college, he started his own business, cutting lawns, and learned the hardscaping trade, concrete pavers, installing them. He learned that under someone else and decided Mick was the classic entrepreneur.
Right.
I can do this.
And he did it for at least 10 years or 20 years?
No, by the time I had met him, his company, Techniscape, had already been in existence for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And he was catering to high-end type applications for backyard patios, driveways, walkways, all that sort of thing. And then he had this other business that was tied to that, where he cut lawns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he had a group of people that cut lawns.
So he knew business, and he knew the outdoor hardscaping world.
He knew it inside
right.
and out. And so from that standpoint, as a teacher, and making me understand, and making Kenny understand what concrete pavers were all about, that was his background, and he was tops in his field, absolutely tops in his field. My brother, as a CPA, that's basically coming out of Villanova, becoming a CPA, doing his thing in a CPA firm, learning all the ins and outs of how businesses run, all types of different businesses. You can't downplay that, and we hope to have him as an interview here in the near future. But when it came to the finance, the accounting, the understanding of cash flow, all those important things that you need to know, the mechanism that keeps the business running, he had that down.
Well, I'll push back a little bit, saying that
Sure.
Your brother had a CPA and he had those experiences. Downplaying a little, he rose to high levels in the corporate world. So he had achievements.
Yes, thanks for bringing. You're right.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding of that. I mean,
he's probably in the top X percentage of his field. So comes together into a small business, a startup. So you got Mick with a business ownership,
right.
Knew the market, knew the outdoor living. Ken, one of the tops in his field.
Right.
And then a little bit about you.
My background was in operations initially, and then I went into sales, and that's where. When I left the company that I was working for, I was VP of Sales and Marketing for that company, and at some point I was also general manager. So, handling people, handling salespeople, actually selling, being out on the road for many years, I filled that gap. Okay.
So then, all right. So, if I were to summarize, I'd say that's unique for a startup. For something completely new to the world never saw paver art. They didn't even know what it existed. You've got a founding team. That was the unfair advantage. The level the three of you had, the experience that you had, kind of off the charts, I think, for the world of small businesses as a startup. That's my opinion. Your opinion on what percentage of the world was that grind, that difficult stuff, that hard stuff to get the business going in the first, let's call it 5 years? You weren't making money hand over fist. I don't think many businesses do.
Well, we were also, well, yes, you're right. We were fortunate, however, in that the first, what gave us all the little final kick, to get started, the starting gun that got us moving. We came out of the chute with a good size order, but
That financed the business.
yes, for all intents and purposes. And
Also somewhat unique.
it is somewhat unique, but obviously there also needed to be, an injection, and it was all, it was basically all self-injected capital, if you will. Without going into the details, that was part of it also. But we did not have, an angel financier that came in and say, "Hey, I really like your product. Here's here's $500,000. Go for it." No, we didn't have that. At any rate, and my brother can speak more to that at that point, if and when we do interview him. But the grit, that comes from inside. You got to have that. If you don't have that, forget the grind. You're not going to grind on anything. But the grind part of the job, that's every day until you get that first big win. That's 90% of the job.
So let's move past the 4 intersections of Wildwood, because that financed the business. That was the big win.
Right.
It launched the company. What happens after that? You didn't have another one behind that, did you? You had to go do it piece by piece and go on the road.
Correct.
And talk about going on the road and what does it mean to generate revenue for a small business?
Well, if you've been in sales if you've ever done sales professionally, you have a territory. You have to manage that territory yourself. It's much akin to having your own business or running your own business, and to do that, you have to understand cost. You have to understand, you have to understand clientele. You have to understand how to sell. You have to understand your product inside and out. Product knowledge, the personality, the marketing personality, when people talk to you, they enjoy talking to you. That's learned and it's also inherited. It's about a 50-50 proposition.
Sure.
For the good salespeople. And then there's the actual understanding of administering to that territory. But as part of the grind, one of the things that I stayed in more than my fair share of cheap-ass hotels.
How cheap?
Real cheap. We're talking $29.99 plus
perfect.
tax. Okay, and if it said, like the Red Roof Inns, free HBO,
I'm in.
I'm there. I'm absolutely
Did
there.
they have a free breakfast?
No.
They didn't. Well, you got to factor that in.
No,
So it wasn't that cheap.
Fortunately, most of those places are near a Bob Evans or a Cracker Barrel. And by the way, you can't get a better $5.
Right.
You can't get a $5. Well, back then it
A
was
quick
$5.
little side note. This I've gotten tagged in my career of being cheap as it comes to travel and entertainment.
Sure.
One of my good friends that used to be a CFO of a previous company that I owned, this was a bone of contention between him and I. We stayed in a hotel in California, and he found bloodstains on the sheets. So that clearly he won that argument. I was a little too cheap on that one.
We should do a podcast. We should do an episode, not a podcast, but an episode of our podcast where we just, we do an hour's worth of stories.
War stories.
I think the stories would be fantastic. I know I've got several. I know you've got several. We've shared them over the last 4 years.
But back to your grind of the 5 days on the road at the Red Roof Inn and traveling. Where did you travel? Anywhere?
The 48 contiguous states. I didn't go to Hawaii and I didn't go to Alaska.
The first 2 years on the road, how successful? Because I know you pivoted at one point and you said this ain't working anymore with your distribution channel.
It was difficult. The problem was we thought that distribution was the best way, or the path of least resistance to get the word out on the product.
And by distribution, what do you mean?
Well, in most states, when it comes to selling concrete pavers, it's best done through distribution, meaning there's a local distributor that has, he's the sole distributor for a particular manufacturer, or he'll have a couple of manufacturers that he represents, plus all the ancillary
So it's basically
products that
retail.
go along with that. It's pretty much the case.
The landscapers go there, they buy their pallet of whatever they need, and then they leave. They're a retailer. So it goes
Exactly.
manufacturer, like a Teco block,
Yep.
to a distributor who's a retailer, and then you try to sell through that retailer.
But if you know anything about, marketing channels and distribution channels, there's a tremendous amount of work that's required to not just get, it's easier to get the distributor than it is to maintain the distributor and keep them up to date. And, the only boots we had on the ground were owned by me.
How many,
Okay,
so you hit 48 contiguous states. How many distributors did you call on before you said, that was adversity? If you said it ain't working, how many did you call on before you made that decision?
It was somewhere in the vicinity of 220.
You made 220 sales calls.
Well, there was more sales calls. That's who we eventually, lined up after 3 years worth of work.
Right.
But we had to modify our approach. Typically you want a distributor to be a stocking distributor.
How many stocked?
It's 3.
3 out of 220.
Yeah, 3 out of 220. And
So how'd they sell if they didn't stock? What'd they do?
that's a great point, Mark. How did they sell? Okay, they didn't have any skin in the game.
Right.
You got to have skin in the game. If you don't,
As a customer.
if you've got stuff sitting in your warehouse, the owner of that that distributor's going, hey, when the hell are we going to sell this paver art stuff? Okay, well, the problem with that is you've got to teach these folks how to sell paver art.
Yep.
It's brand new. Nobody's ever seen it before.
Right.
Okay, it's not a trinket, and it's not inexpensive as as an accessory product for a backyard patio or driveway or walkway at someone's home. So there's many levels to sell. The problem with this was it took up so much time.
Well, 3 years, and you had 3 people stock.
Right.
But you had 220 say, yeah, they'll support it.
And you've got to be judge and jury. Mike, why is it that this distributor 25 miles down the road is also selling your product to my client? And
Now you got to get involved and arbitrate it.
That's exactly right. And that started taking up a hell of a lot of time. So part of the grind was to figure out that was a mistake.
Didn't work.
Didn't work. And the decision was made, you know what? To heck with this. We're going to drop these guys, or we're not. It's not a question of
Was it
dropping them.
short-sighted on their part, do you think, looking back 18 years ago, that distributors didn't get on board with it?
Oh, I'd love to talk to every one of them today and say that right to their face.
Right.
You weren't thinking ahead, okay? Look what we've done with this company, this product. Now everybody knows about paver art, or the people that
Our awareness
want
is
to know,
higher.
yeah,
Right.
but much higher than it ever was. And let's not forget also, when we started, the whole concept of a website, and this is 20 years ago, the whole concept of a website had started to take hold, but not everybody had a website.
Right.
So that meant that not everybody was website savvy.
Well, let me go back to grit and grind, right? So you got 3 years, you're on the road, you're staying in a shitty red roof inns.
Right.
You signed up 220 for support, but you said, 3 of them actually brought product in and had skin in the game.
Correct.
So that, I think, is the definition of, those are not great sales results, right?
Exactly.
It's not the outcome that you wanted. Now, you pivoted and all that, but 3 years of the thing. Talk about how you brought that issue to the table, and how did you decide to pivot and say, let's scrap this and start over? How did that all happen as a key leader in the business?
Well, the one nice thing about the 3 of us was that we all understood that, it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple equation. You got to sell product. You don't sell product, you're going out of business. Mm-hmm. It's very, very simple. So when you sit down at the table and you go, hey guys, okay, I have look at all these calls that I've made. You talk to me every day. When I'm on the road, you hear from me every day. When I'm in my office, you hear me talk about the failures and the triumphs and I just got this guy today, and oh, by the way, they got a contractor on the hook to buy a product, one of our products. You've heard this every day. Now this has been going on for 3 years.
Right.
All right. At the end of that 3-year period, you got to look back and you got to go. The distributors, our ability to sell through a distribution channel is not very, it hasn't been very successful, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better.
Right.
And we're not in a position to hire people to send and cover a 3-state or 4-state or 5-state territory.
To make it work.
Right. And we weren't going to go to the sale, we weren't going to go to the sales rep route either. We were too young, we were too new. So, what do? Well, the bottom line is we're going to sell to everybody, okay?
But how did you have that conversation with Mick and Ken that says we got to scrap this?
Well, I remember...
Was it just you got beaten down to the ground of hearing no, or it was a truly failed strategy?
No, I came in one day, and by the way, they see it every day. It's not
right.
like
so it's not
it's not like Mike came in and there was this
you didn't do a PowerPoint on this one.
There was a big shiny halo around my head.
Right.
And well, here comes Mike. We're going to talk about sales today. No, that's not how it worked. Everybody, all three of us knew what was going on. And I can't remember who exactly it was that said it. It was probably me. But guys, we need to do something different here. This isn't working. My suggestion is let's go direct. Now, I'll deal with the clients. I'll deal with the distributors that call, well, wait a second, I thought I could buy from you. Yeah, you can still buy from us, okay? But you're not getting a preferred price.
Well,
and by the way, if your contractor that's buying product from you decides to call us direct, we're going to give him the opportunity to buy from us too. So I established 3 price lists, and it worked. That's all that's the way we've been.
We
doing
didn't have
business
much to lose. It's not like you had 100 stocking distributors
Great
across
point.
the country.
Yeah, exactly. And
so it wasn't a big decision.
That's exactly right. So,
but there is a lesson there. A new to the world product. It wasn't because of lack of sales efforts that this thing didn't light the world on fire, and that 100 distributors across the country took on pay for it.
Exactly.
So there's a combination of short-sightedness, I think. The fact that you do have to support them. All these paver manufacturers, they'll go to the distributor, they'll do lunch and learns, they'll do all kinds of stuff to educate them, build free displays, they'll do all that, and we weren't in a position to do that.
Right.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, if we did it, it would have worked anyway. If we mimicked that world, I think what sells our product is imagery, installed photos, the uniqueness, finding that consumer that wants something different. So versus a mass market sea of pavers.
Following right on the heels of what you said, what was the first thing we did when we decided, okay, we need to, like you said, pivot. We need to pivot here. We need to do something different. And that doing something different was going direct to contractors, working directly with landscape architects, not having to deal with the day-to-day. Hey, Mike, I thought you were going to sell this product to me. Well, yeah, and if you
actually stock some,
if you actually put some in stock, this phone call would have a lot more. You'd have a lot more leverage.
Right.
But having said all that, what was the first thing we did? We scrapped the website and built a new one. The first website I thought was fantastic, and I think we all thought it was fantastic. Considering the fact that we had limited items to show, it's a new product. Google was in its. They weren't in their infancy, but they were still catching on as a marketing channel, for small business. Facebook was practically non-existent. Facebook was non-existent. There was all sorts of things that were presenting themselves as opportunities, but you had to pick one. So what we did was, the first thing we did was we upgraded the website. Now, that was the first upgrade of the website that we had. And then we had 3 more after that. That's how important the website became. It became a reference point to sell. I became less important as a road salesman, a lunch and learn guy with landscape architects, because now there are ways to do that same selling with not just the website, but all the other IT assets that were, every year something new was coming out. And that's what we started to concentrate on.
I think there might be a lesson there. 3 years, countless red roof inns, on the road, 3 people that actually took and put skin in the game with stock and product, and then all 3 of you, because you knew what was going on, you said, it's not working, let's scrap it. So you kind of said, let's just kill it, right? You put it to bed, that strategy, and then you said, all right, now let's get our energy going in a forward momentum thing. Let's use this thing called a website,
Right.
and let's get aligned against a new project, and whether you bring vendors in or however you do it, you said, let's kill that, put our energy towards building something new. So you didn't just say, all right, let's go direct. You put resources behind a new strategy to get it a shot. You had to.
You had to. By then, also at that time, paper ads were a big way to get your product out there and known. The hardscape industry had its own magazine, Hardscape Magazine it was called. There were 2 landscape architect journals that came out, I believe it was once a month, and one was Landscape Architecture Magazine, which is a terrific magazine for landscape architects, but very, very high end. And then there was Landscape Architect and Specifier News, which was our chosen, paper medium marketing outlet.
Well, let me ask you, what sustained, for 3 years you had 3 distributors stocking. What sustained the business if that didn't work?
Well, we'd still get calls from landscape architects. That's when we learned
Other markets?
Correct. That's other markets. That's when we learned how to, start taking business. We were taking direct business, but it was spotty. But that spotty business that we took, I'll give you for instance. We got a call from and this is a great example. We got a call from an architect down in Miami who was the architect for Jimmy Buffett. This guy discovered our website. Somehow he discovered our website, and he said, "Look, I need to talk to you. Jimmy Buffett's and his Margaritaville franchise, we're putting something in Las Vegas." Oh, okay. Well, so what do you need from us? Well, we're thinking of building. We don't want to do a decorative concrete or stained concrete parrot, which is basically the cornerstone of the Margaritaville franchise, is that parrot, if you will, with the palm trees in the background, the water and all that, and then the Margaritaville name. We want to do something special. We want to do something brand new because this is going to be a really special high-end Margaritaville. It's going to be right on the Strip, and it's going to be in the Flamingo Hotel.
Pretty cool.
Well, great, no problem. So Mike gets in his car. I plan a week's worth of calls, and I wind up, I've got calls from here all the way down to Miami, and then from Miami all the way back.
Jeez.
So, but my primary call was to talk to this architect, and a personal visit. I've got my valise with the samples. Valise, there you go. There's a throwback.
You're Franklin Planner?
How old are you, Mike?
The old school.
Mike's 93 years old. At any rate, we got the order. Okay, Mick did his thing in designing it. Ken did his thing in regards to working out the details. Pricing. The quote for this thing. I wound up having to fly out to Las Vegas. I didn't drive this time. I flew, but we thought it was going to be a real benchmark for us. Okay, doing something like this for a high-end restaurant in Las Vegas, which is how many people are going into the Flamingo Hotel on the Strip? And oh, by the way, you can see this from the Strip. And by the way, it's still there. Okay. It was, as of the last time a family member, my daughter, went out there with
a great picture.
Yeah, exactly, and picture of her taken at the front entrance to it. But we were starting to get things like that. Okay.
But let me make an assumption. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
First 5 years of the business, given the distribution challenges,
right,
you guys weren't making money hand over fist, where you're all making what you want to make personally.
Understand the distribution.
Small piece.
Calling on distributors was a big part of my time. Took a big part of my time, marketing wise and sales wise and on the road wise. But I also called on design build firms. I was going to home shows and trade exhibitions where design build firms and contractors had big islands. I'm making calls. I'm going to these shows, spending 2 days talking to each one of them, handing out sell sheets. And by the way, you never hand out a sell sheet unless you're talking to the person that you're handing the sell sheet to.
But in the topic of
it costs too much money.
Right, you're blanketing the whole world of sales. Every opportunity, you're using your time effectively, which is great. But the outcome, to the bottom line, the cash flow, you guys weren't making money hand over fist where that's the reward. It had to be other things, right? And I'm making an assumption here, but for 5 years, you guys weren't, without getting into specifics of compensation, you all weren't killing it in terms of results to the bottom line.
Correct.
So it had to be other things that sustained the business. You had to get through the grind.
Exactly. When we got, and the way you got through that, trust me, by the time you get that first big win, you have a pretty good idea of how this organization is going to run. You know what your responsibilities are. Mick and Ken knew what their responsibilities were, and we just did it every day. We're responsible individuals that came from worlds that required that you be that type of person. So applying those principles to this work with our own business, that was no problem at all. The grind. We talked about this a little bit in the last podcast in regards to our wives. The noise, the outside noise was not there. Our wives took care of that for us. Okay,
not a luxury.
So we were able to concentrate on the daily grind of running the business, and there were tough times, but we never lost sight of the fact that this is a product that we know. Look, this isn't one of those situations where you're 23 years old, you don't know shit from Shinola.
Right.
Pardon my French. And boy, this is a great idea. I'm going to go make this job work. I'm going to make this. We're going to make this product. We're going to sell this. This is going to be success. No, we all came from worlds where, we've had our own little individual successes in our previous jobs. We know when we see something, if we think very strongly that it's going to work, there's a pretty good chance that it's going to work.
Right.
And what I think is terrific about looking back on the grind of doing what you have to do to keep pushing this product out there every day, all those years that it took are now pretty validated.
Sure.
I mean, this business has, in my opinion, exploded, and it's exploded for good reason. There's a market for this product, and we've always said all along the biggest problem we had was exposure. Getting people. We need more people to know about our product, and because you don't have a huge, massive infusion of capital, to kind of push that along and hit all the marketing outlets. You had to do it. You had to find other ways to do it, and those other ways, basically came as a result of the grind that it took every day to move this product.
Well, you laid out a lot of adversity. I think anybody would say 3 years of being on the road and all the sacrifice that takes, right, to be in the Red Roof Inn for 5 nights when you got relatively young family.
Right.
That's a sacrifice, and if the benefits aren't financial, there's got to be other things involved. The belief and a bigger vision that eventually it'll be success, a host of other things that keep you fueled because it's not the excess bonus dollars that are coming in, right?
Correct. That's exactly right. And,
the simple word of gratitude and appreciating the journey that you're on, whether it's the Red Roof Inn or slaving away in a shop, a factory, is pretty darn important, I think. When you're in the small business entrepreneurial world, if you can't figure out a way to appreciate the little things, it will beat you down because you're going to be going through the 98% rejection rate of this might not work. So I think there's a practical aspect to it, which is, Maslow's needs, food, clothing, and shelter. How are you going to fund your own food, your basic living expenses? That's a really practical. You can either do that or do not, right? In a small business, you can figure that out, whether through savings, credit cards. But then it's the appreciation of what are you trying to build here and who you're doing it with. Let me give you a quick little story of when I was a marketing exec for a food company. I had to learn the operations ropes. So Chess Jackson, shout out to Chess. This guy, I've always considered myself a hard worker. Chess puts me to shame. We fly out to Chandler, Minnesota to Monogram Meat Snacks, and we spent 5 days there. That was my orientation, and we were working with all the people, and Chess gave me some great advice. Don't open a laptop. You can do that in Memphis, where we were headquartered. Let's spend the time working with the people. I'm on board. Makes perfect sense. So I'm thinking, all right, we'll sit down. We'll have a few meetings. We'll tour through. We'll do the drive-by in the plant. We'll see all the production lines. We'll do everything we got to do.
Sure.
rude awakening. So we go through, we wake up early, we get to the plant. Let's just say it's Chandler, Minnesota in the dead of winter, which is when we started. Is not exactly the most pleasant place in the world to be. I mean, it's like negative 20 degrees wind chill. You haven't seen cold until you go to Chandler, Minnesota in January. So we're going through the meat plant. We're going through the whole thing. And meat plants it's cold. It's wet. A ton of people. So we're going through it. We go through the plant, let's just say for 5 hours. And then we have some planning meetings. We're doing a whole thing. We're sampling product. Finally comes time, let's say it's 6 o'clock. We break for dinner. And I'm thinking that's it. That's for our day. Let's go have a nice dinner. Throw back a beer. So we start ordering, and I'll never forget it. No alcohol. We're going back. I'm like, we're going back where? Well, we got night shift at the plant. I'm like, Jesus, we woke up at 5 o'clock. I'm a little tired here. We're not going to bed? No, we're going to the night shift. And sanitation starts at, I think it was like 3 a.m. or something ridiculous. I'm like, holy shit, we're going to do sanitation too. So we're going through the plant, and I am dead tired. And again, I think I'm pretty hardcore with work. And he was doing it with a smile on his face. And like, this guy's like the freaking Energizer Bunny, right? That was day one. So we get the day, I think it was like Thursday or whatever, and we give a presentation to the entire workforce, and a Spanish workforce, so there was interpreters. And I'll never forget this. There was 4 production workers, little Hispanic ladies, right? And at the end of the presentation, I see them go to their locker. They open it up, and they pull out what looked like a giant cupcake or a small cake.
Sure.
They go in the corner, one candle, they lit it, and everyone's scrambling with their hard hats to get back into the factory. They sing in Spanish, happy birthday, and they're cracking up, and they're wolfing down the cake. And I'm looking at this in amazement, saying, oh, my God, they just celebrated, a little group of 4 women, celebrated someone's birthday, and they look like they're having their time of their life. I mean, you want to talk about gratitude right there. And then they break, they throw their hard hats on, and they go back. And I'm thinking to myself, here I am feeling sorry for myself, right? Because I got to walk through a plant at 3 in the morning to see sanitation. And these 4 gals take the time out to celebrate one of their colleagues' birthday. I'm like, boy, if that wasn't the cold slap of water, how can they be grateful for that opportunity to say happy birthday, sing around a cake, and then big smiles on their face, they're going back into the grind of working at a meat plant. And I'm like, it's one of those lessons that hit me like a ton of bricks. Somehow they found a way to practice a little gratitude right there. Maybe I ought to take a cue from them.
It's a great story. Now, you bring up a very important point. When you went through the process of purchasing L&M Foods, and I think I could tie this to what we just got finished talking about. Paver Art got started, for all intents and purposes, by, there were 3 of us that basically powered this thing. I keep using the term power, but I can't think of a better term. It really was powered by the 3 of us. But there were 3 of us, okay, all pretty good at our particular strengths, whatever they might be. How many small businesses in this country basically have one sole owner, sole proprietors?
I think the majority of them.
I think you're right. And we don't think that, we know that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
You were in a similar position at L&M Foods. Now, your primary backup was probably Kim, your wife. Okay, that was part of your support mechanism, but you're at that job every day at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, working 12, 13, 14, 15 hours, working, and I know how hard you work here. So a 7-day week for you back then, with the financial responsibilities that you had, not unusual to put in those kinds of hours. So I guess my question is, I had Ken and Meg. If I had an issue or if I was feeling down, I had I had guys to prop me up, and they had me to prop them up. Whenever one of the guys was down, there was 2 of us that were right there. Believe me, that's a hell of a support group. Mm-hmm. Okay, where was your support group?
That's a good question. Business ownership carries a lot of great things, but there are some burdens, right? When you brought up the story of Mick, Mick was always up, always optimistic.
Yep.
every day he wasn't optimistic. I can assure you that.
Right.
There might have been 2/3 of the times he wasn't optimistic, but you thought he was. So there's a degree of, I hate to use the word act in, but you've got to be on as an owner. They've got to believe that the future is brighter tomorrow than it is today, right?
Yep.
To answer your question, who is my support network? As an owner, you don't want to burden the people that are working with you or for you, right? You just don't. But you got to have somebody or you're going to explode. So, yeah, you're right.
Well, let's not forget, you were their support mechanism, too.
That's right. So you carry those responsibilities. Number one, you've got to make payroll, right? When you're running a business and when you're responsible for it, it's not just there's a lot of mouths that are being fed from the business that you're running, whether you've got one employee or 50, right? Business owners have to find a support network. That could be their spouse. It could be good friends. It's better if they can relate to their business. You don't need emotional support, although that's important. Mm-hmm. You need practical, hands-on, business-oriented support. There's a lot of ways you can get that. You can build an informal network. There's also formalized networks. You can pay whatever it is, $1,500 a month. Young Presidents Club. There's one organization. The Entrepreneurial Network, Vistage, where they bring together CEOs once a month and they do issue processing of different issues. Those things can help. But what you really need is the one term, kitchen cabinet of advisors. So who do you go to when your back is up against the wall as a business owner that can help you with this topic? And let's just say that's a financial topic. And then over here, you've got an HR, human resources, sales issue. Who's your kitchen cabinet of advisors that you can turn to for that? Mm-hmm. So outside of the business, you want to have a strong network. And I'm amazed. When I write blog posts, every now and then I just put something out there to see if anyone's listening or to see if anybody wants to take me up on it. I'll publish my cell phone number.
A tickler.
A little tickler. Mm. I'll publish my cell phone number and say, text me and set up a time to talk with me if I can help you in any way.
Sure.
And why do I do that? Well, I got an hour and a half commute back to North Jersey 3 days a week. And at 4 a.m. or 4:30, I'm coming here. So I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to kind of use office hours, so to speak, in my car going back north? Over 3 years, 2 people have taken me up on that. Now, that might just mean that 2 people have noticed that I've done that. So it tells you something about hard to get your name out there. But I think generally, business owners are a pretty prideful bunch. Mm-hmm. They don't like to, I hate to generalize, but there's a group of them that don't like to ask for help. You've got to ask for help. You've got to you got to be humble enough to ask for help, or you might just implode. Number one, from a psychological standpoint. From a practical standpoint, you don't know everything, right? I've got a pretty core skill set in sales, marketing with an operational and financial feel. But there's a lot I don't know more than I do know. So who's going to help fill in those gaps? You got to have a strategy for that. Because the grind and the adversity can wear you down. You got to have a support network. And it's probably got to be outside of your business.
How did you handle, yes, you have a good feel for the finance end, but you still need an accountant. You need someone that can sit down at the table across from you and say, okay, here's what we got. Here's how we did last month.
Right.
Here's our cash flow situation. We're going to need to borrow for this. We're going to need, they become your best friend, I'm sure. That's part of the business. And
to a degree, but what I have learned in the world of accounting is there's an income statement and there's a balance sheet. There's something more important than that, which has to do with neither of them. That's your cash balance.
Sure.
So what I've learned over time is I don't need an accountant to tell me if I made money or lost money in the month for the health of my business, and they do all their accruals. They do all the GAAP accounting principles. Mm-hmm. What I've learned over time, healthy, profitable businesses, if their cash is $10,000 today, if they're making money, over the long term, your cash balance should build along with your profits. And if it doesn't, something's going on. So you got to look at your cash. Businesses don't go out of business because of lack of profits.
Right.
They go out of business because of cash flow issues. They're spending on CapEx. They're building up inventory. They're not managing working capital successfully. So what I've kind of learned to do, I get accounting. I get balance sheets and the importance of them with income statements and cash flow statements. You've got to learn to manage working capital and where your money is, where it's going. You've got to know how to reinvest. So over the course of owning businesses, I've learned that working capital is critical, and that's where businesses burn up. So I'm not an accountant, never will be one, but I appreciate a CPA, a good CPA,
sure,
and a good accountant. I've short-circuited that. I know my working capital, which is your current assets minus your current liabilities, what you own to pay your current bills and what you owe, your short-term obligations. That number over time should be growing if you're managing an effective business. If it's not growing, you're probably not making profits, or you got to dive deeper. So these are short-circuited ways that you can kind of accelerate this and kind of manage through this grind. But metrics are important for a small business owner, and understanding if you're heading in the right direction or not. Mm-hmm. You want to be looking forward, not necessarily in the rearview mirror. So grit and grind and adversity. As a business owner, you got to kind of, there's only so many hours in a week, right?
Right.
You've got to decide where your energy is going to go. You want to have a portion of it tied to the financial health of your business. And then how does that look? And is it going to get better over time or not? And if the answer is or not, you want to work on that, right?
Well, so basically what we're saying is this. We've indicated that we know for a fact that the majority of small businesses in this country are run by sole proprietors. Mm-hmm. For the most part, they're sole proprietors. And that person, that entrepreneur, that person that started the business is probably really good at one or two, maybe even three things, but they're not good at 10.
That's right.
Okay, and it's 10, or 9 or 7, whatever it's going to take for them to make that business a success. So basically, what we're saying is you've got a network. You've got to, you
got to build out your support.
Align yourself with a number of people that you can trust, that can basically act as guidance counselors from time to time.
Let me ask you, why did you stay at a Red Roof Inn versus a Marriott Residence Inn that might have cost $100?
That's a real easy question to answer. The money, sales to me was always a game. It was a numbers game. It was a self-challenging, self-motivating game. What kept me sane was, okay, I made 13 sales calls this week, okay, all over the Eastern Seaboard, or out in, heading out towards Chicago, or, on my way down to Nashville, or on my way down to Texas. By the way, all by car. Mm-hmm. The arranging of all of that, with the goal that, okay, last week I spent $275 on expenses, food, shelter, gas. And let's not forget, gas back then was
sure.
It's $1.25 a gallon. Mm-hmm. Can I get that down to $2.50? Now I'm putting numbers out there. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the exact numbers, but let's see if I can do that this week. And oh, by the way, my son and my daughter have a swim meet starting on Saturday.
Got to be back for it.
I'm in Miami, or I'm in the Keys somewhere making sales calls, and I'm not missing that sales meeting. I'm not missing that swim meet that my kids are in, and my wife needs a little relief, so I'm driving all the way back. Can I make it in? Can I make it in one? Can I make that 17-hour trip, or 16 or 17-hour trip, all in one shot? It's a game.
Well, let me comment on that.
That's what you
answered it very succinctly. Why'd you stay at the Red Roof versus the Marriott Residence Inn? It was money, because it was $70 cheaper than the other one, right?
Absolutely.
Look, as a small business owner,
and by the way, you know how many Red Roofs there are in Orlando? 7.
Right.
Well, as I recall, there were 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I had in my car, I had with me I had the directory of Red Roof Inns, the directory of Hamptons, the Super 8s.
Yep.
But you weren't going to find a Holiday Inn in the bunch. Okay. You weren't going to find a Marriott. You weren't going to find a Radisson. None of those were in my car. But what's amazing to me, a little trick of the trade. If you're getting into the closer you get to the downtown area, of the metropolitan area where you're making your sales call, okay, those Red Roof Inns get more expensive. All right. So I'm staying in Orlando. It may as well have been in Georgia where I was staying, because the nightly rate there was $49.99. Okay, and free HBO. So,
well, here's what I would tell you: the fact that you can talk specifics about $49.99 versus the different options.
Okay.
If you're owned by, let's say, a big private equity fund with big money,
Sure.
they're not having these conversations. They're just going to the Marriott. That's where they get their points, or whatever the reason is. That's a different cultural aspect. Right. The small proprietor's not thinking that way. No. They're kind of thinking like you're just kind of articulated.
I'm not driving. Yeah, I'm not driving a $45,000 car. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm driving. At the time, I was driving a Hyundai Santa Fe. And by the way, we've never owned any other type of car since then. Mm-hmm. I won't own another kind of car. I'm loyal to that brand because that car, the first car I got when we started Paver Art, was a burgundy-colored Santa Fe. I drove that thing all over this country. Mm-hmm. And when I finally gave it up, it was still running. When I finally gave it up, because everybody said, look, you got to get a new car. I had 455,000 miles on that car. And that car never let me down. Never, ever let me down. And it was inexpensive to run. After I paid it off, it didn't, it didn't owe me anything. I owed it quite a bit. But, if I was a big shot salesman working for a company with a territory and multi-million dollar accounts, I'm driving around in a caddy. I'm driving around.
Well, the mindset that you had there with the car.
It's very simple. It's and by the way, I'm not buying a car every 2 years.
So how important are those decisions for the small proprietor? The lifestyle that
Huge. But at the same time, they're easy to manage because...
All right, if you're not willing to do that...
It's coming out of your pocket every day.
So tough question, because of the 30 million small businesses, and I think the ownership rate in America for small business, I think it's like 8-point-something%.
Right.
Is it fair to say, if you're not willing to drive that car for 450,000 miles or stay in a Red Roof Inn, that maybe you ought to question why you're getting into small business if they won't do that?
Yes.
And I think most of them would.
Yes.
But there's a percentage of one. Look, one of the problems with social media is it's made entrepreneurship used to be this, you're starting your own business. You were like, oh, you're doing what? Now it's sexy. Right. Now it's the private jets. It's all this glamorized stuff, which is not a fair depiction of what a small business owner really is.
It's completely and totally unfair because the guys in our sphere, our current sphere, I can assure you that's not how they operate.
We deal with a lot of them. We've dealt with contractors. Our terms are very clear. We get a 50% deposit up front, and then when we're done, we send you the picture. You pay us the balance, and we do that before we ship it. We've had a rare but occasions where we send a proof of completion, and then they drag us out. Why? They don't got the money. You can't get blood from a stone.
That's right.
They looked at the terms. They just don't have the money, so they're not really a business. They got to wait until they get paid to pay us. So now, in the world of contractors, I don't know what percentage are in that camp that they're not going to pay until they get paid. Well, now, we'll never do business with them again, by the way, right? But there are a lot of businesses that behave how they want to behave, not because they're bad people. They just don't have the money, but they enter into things they shouldn't be entering into.
How many of those guys that are like that? The guys, and again, this is not an indictment. This is an observation. How many of those fellows that own their own businesses could tell you today what their cash flow position was?
The ones that do that, very few.
Yeah,
they're not running a business the way they need. If you can't comply with contract terms and you know you're entering into a contract that you can't fulfill,
sure.
I wouldn't say you shouldn't be in business. There could, although that's possible, there might be some integrity issues. But if they're willing to say, all right, I get your terms, and I'll get you your deposit, but I won't do the back end until I get paid, there's a problem. There's a real problem there.
How hard is that? Think about this. You're out there, you're killing it at a job site all day long. You got to come home, and if you don't do it Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, or Saturday night, you got to do it Sunday. Your only day off. And what is that? That is figuring out where you are financially in your business, buying inventory, being able to afford and make the next payroll. Do I need to get that next truck? Boy, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to have a club cab, in a dually, with all these nice little options and accoutrements, blah 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 blah, that are going to cost you an extra 35 grand.
Let's go back to
do you? That's a write-off to the business. First of all, they're write-offs. They're expensive write-offs.
They require
it's
cash.
It's not a write-off. It's not like somebody's going to give you. Somebody's going to reimburse you.
Anybody that
for buying the truck.
Anybody that doesn't know how to manage cash and they use the term write-off, they don't know what they're doing. Right. That just gets you back 30% or whatever tax bracket you're in at the end of the year.
Exactly.
Go back to the cake. The 4 little production workers that are having a cake and they're celebrating life and they're practicing a little gratitude.
Right.
And they're getting motivated to get back on the shift. Small business owners can learn from that. Having said that, there is a hardcore practical responsibility and skill for a small business owner to be able to run an effective business where they don't put themselves in that position or start using terms like write-off as justification for poor working capital management, poor decisions, whatever it is. So let's face it, the bell curve affects small business owners too. There's small business owners that are at the top 10% that are growing, they're reinvesting, they're doing all that. There's the masses. And then there's 20% that are going to go out of business. It's just when is it going to catch up to them, right?
Sure, exactly.
So to move from the masses to become better at what you do, it's about networks. It's about getting better at the things that you're not good at, surrounding yourself with different people, all of those things. So part of surviving in the face of adversity is getting more successful, having a plan to get more successful. So if you're stretching your suppliers now, have a goal to do less of that next month or a quarter from now. So a real thing with going through adversity, you got to get better at what you do. You've got to get better at what you do.
Sure.
Or you're going to be continually in a model of stretching people or not increasing compensation or a host of other bad things that you can't do in this competitive environment that we're in.
You may be an expert.
The cake's only going to go so far.
That's true. And that cake's only so big.
Right.
So when we were talking about and preparing for this podcast, or this particular episode, you brought up something that I thought was very, very interesting, and you referred to it as peer executive groups. I thought that was extremely helpful. Now, that may be on a certain specific level that you dealt with peer executive groups as the sole owner of, the sole owner / manager of L&M Foods, okay? But at the same time, that appears to be, to some measure, a support group for you. And I'm sure there's those groups that are available at virtually every level, every level of proprietorship.
Well, there's a business for everything. So if you want to pay, you can get into any support mechanism that you have.
Sure.
Or you do it informally through finding people in trying to build relationships with other people. Mm-hmm. So like anything, if you're going to do it informally, which in theory doesn't cost anything, and you try and reach out to people in your space that you think could be a benefit, like anything, you can't just take, you gotta give, like any relationship. So you gotta try and build those mutually beneficial relationships. So I give the example that I put myself out there just to make the time pass in my car, but yeah, there's a selfish thing there too, is hey, maybe I'll build a relationship that could help us or something else. Maybe it's deal flow for acquiring other businesses. But really it's just, let me kill some time on a commute, right? But you can pay to be part of a Vistage, a Young Entrepreneurs, a Young Presidents Club. You can pay for any of those things and get good counsel. You've got to evaluate it like anything else. Is it worth the $1,500 a month? And make that decision as if it's a business. It's a business decision. So you got to have a payback there.
And you've got, because of your previous business relationships, you've got what can only be counted as friends that and friend and business relationships that you've nurtured and worked on for years and years and years. And I'm sure you spoke with those people from time to time when you were doing L&M. Not everybody has that, but everybody can develop it.
I think that's right. You've got to, as a small business owner, you're well served to build your network out. I think that's, if we were to give bullet pointed tips from this episode, build out your network and start informally and set a goal. 2 to 3 conversations a quarter with different people and see if you can add value to them. So look at what you do well that you might be able to help somebody else with. Do it from a spirit of mutual benefit and then try and develop your network. And do it on downtime so you're not taking time away from the business, whether it's commuting, Trying with LinkedIn, it's pretty easy to reach out to people. People are pretty accessible. That's the one benefit of social media.
Sure.
You're 2 degrees of separation from anybody. So the question is, now everyone's busy. Everyone's leading busy lives. So, but if you do it from a standpoint, hey, I think I can help you in this area, and then vice versa, strike up a conversation, you'd be surprised at how well you can do that informally.
And I'd like to think that there are other Mark Olivitos out there, and I'll bring that up to wrap this episode up. We have been presented with several opportunities here in the last 4 years where something looked like a really good idea, something that would be an addendum to paver art, or something that would complement paver art for the purposes of purchasing another business. But several of these opportunities have come up, and I don't think we've pulled the trigger on any of them yet. But what's interesting to me is that when it kind of got to the tipping point of those discussions, the tipping point being, the definition of what that tipping point would be is, okay, we got to fish or cut bait. All right, we're either going to move forward with this or we're not. You always stayed on. You always continued to talk to that particular because a lot of these companies were in, I wouldn't say dire straits. A couple of them were, but you continue to give them some guidance, give them some insight, and I just think that's admirable. There cannot be only one Mark Olivito in the United States. There's got to be thousands of them.
There's plenty of them, and a lot more skilled than me, I would say. But
that's part of. Find yourself someone like that.
Well, it's about value in relationships. So I've always had a philosophy. Look, I want to have a life. If I go into business with you, I want to have a lifelong relationship, even after a transaction or the thing is. Otherwise, you become that transactional guy.
Sure.
There's a ton of private equity shops that are all about the transaction. Let's get the deal done. Let's sell the thing in 3 years, and let's move on. The definition of transaction. They're anti-relationship. Now, I hate to broad brush it because I'm affiliated with Salt Creek Capital. I think is one of the good guys in the business. But generally, in the world of big business, when you start building a business of value and that segment called private equity, they're generally not long-term relationship-oriented. They're about deals and deal flow and all those things. Nothing wrong with that. The Lord knows they can be very successful doing that. In the world of small business and operations, I take the approach of, look, let's have a 20-year relationship, whether we're doing business together or not. It's allowed me to sleep at night. And so if a deal doesn't go forward with me and people that we talk to for paver art, no problem. Why do we have to stop communicating if we can help them or vice versa?
Great point.
Relationships don't cost a thing other than your own mental investment in that relationship. But boy, they can pay dividends if you hang in there and try and add value. I mean, I think the definition of old school is grinding people in a one-sided win-lose fashion versus trying to have a long-term, mutually beneficial relationship.
Well, if you think that, if you think about it, there's
small business owners that go out of business, they're going to have to go get a job. So why not have a host of networks and people that they've done right by, right?
Exactly.
The worst, maybe the last point in the world of adversity and business owners dealing with how do you get through the grind, the adversity. What's the worst that can happen in a business that they might own? They go out of business, and they have financial ruin associated with it if they've got debt or things like that.
Sure.
Well, kind of like Kim said to me when I was contemplating buying the business, which would require us guaranteeing $12 million of debt. What's the worst that can happen? Well, we screw it up, the business goes under, and we go personally bankrupt. Pretty sobering. Does that mean we got to sell our house? So you start going through that mental freight train? All right. She goes, well, do you think you could be able to get a CMO job again? Well, I guess I have a resume, and maybe they look not too kindly on that, but probably. All right, so go make it back. So she had a way of cutting through the clutter.
Exactly.
And saying, you got to be able to put food on a table. You got to cover your basic living expenses. I think your red roof in thing of if you're not willing to make sacrifices in your personal life, and if you can keep them simple, do red roof in versus the hotels, and you compound that by 20 other decisions, you're going to tilt the deck in your favor. And I think that matters. If you think through the worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, and then figure out how quickly you can bounce back, that helps reduce stress. This is a game. It's about reducing stress, tilting the odds in your favor, getting better through networks, skill building, all of those things, and that helps you get through the grind here.
I think that sums it up pretty well. And by the way, before we sign off, I do have to say, Red Roof Inns, clean, accessible.
The blood on sheets?
They're everywhere.
Have you ever had?
No.
You never had that?
No.
See, I go off the off-brand names, so that's probably where I'm screwing up.
Look, you're not going to get the amenities that you're going to get at a Marriott. Okay, you're not going to have the breakfast there in the morning, but you're going to have hot coffee.
It's clean.
It's very clean, easily accessible. And for me, it was the right price, and it just worked. And
Red Roof Inn should call us up and sponsor. We're giving them free advertising. I mean, we should shake them down for at least
we're talking
a few
to
shekels.
To all Red Roof Inns that actually are listening to this podcast.
That's the last time we're going to plug your business.
But you know what? It worked. It absolutely worked. And
it's sponsored by, powered by Red Roof Inn. It doesn't sound as good as powered by Paver Art. I like Paver Art better.
And I love the term grit and grind. And it's our motto at Paver Art: grit, grind, hustle, repeat.
Yeah, it's hard work. It's hard work. You got to find a joy in the hard work. You got to find a joy in the adversity and the percentage that's not successful, not the big one as you call it. That's the key.
Well, and you're exactly right. And I just reminded myself by hitting the microphone for the third time, because Dominic is going to say something to me. Dominic Oliveto is our producer of this podcast, and we tremendously appreciate all the good work that he does. He does it all behind the scenes, so we're going to give him a mention.
Hey, real quick, the story of relaunching our little website, hustleorbust.com, which was a 10-year-old website. It looked like any website. If you go 10
That's
years...
10 years old.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
If you go 10 years, from paper, your first website looks completely different than ours. If you don't update a website for 10 years, that thing's going to look old and tired, and you don't want to go there and spend much time on it.
Bingo.
We had 200 blog posts written on this thing over 10 years. And Dominic, we relaunched it on a Wix platform, which I think is more another shout out to Wix, more user-friendly. You can manage it easier to do blogs and podcasts and things like that. Dominic had the unfortunate task of I gave it to him. I don't have time for it. Dom, hey, you want to do a website? I'll pay you a few bucks. He signed up for it. He said, okay. Well, now he's got to bring over all of these old all these old blog posts. I think he brought 130? 131. Well, when you go into old blog posts, there's dead links. There's pictures that don't work anymore. So he's got to go into each post, and he's got to go find new pictures, find new links. And I've got to go in and redo the SEO, which isn't a ton of time, maybe 5 minutes per post. But 5 minutes times 130 posts is a lot of time. So the idea of redoing a website, the 130 posts, it's like 85% tedious, time-consuming work that's like, oh my God, this is a pain in the ass. That's why people don't update them.
Okay, well, I got to interrupt you here.
Please.
What's the first of all, Dominic? Let's tell the audience. How old are you?
Just turned 15.
Just turned 15. Happy birthday, by the way. When did you do this particular job on the Hustle or Bust, updating the Hustle or Bust website? What day of the week was that? Or days?
Well, I started pretty much a week before it launched.
So you got it done in a week?
Yeah.
But were you doing this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Did you do any weekends, that kind of thing?
Pretty much it all, because we had to do the website and I had to edit the podcasts.
So it was on Saturdays and Sundays? Okay.
We launched on the Sunday.
Well, then you were working on that job on the weekend. Okay. You're here 3 days a week during the summer. I don't think we can call you an intern anymore. No. So after a week of that, this is your summer vacation. You're doing that work on the weekend, and it's tedious. Tedious, I think, is a very generous description of what it's. Quite frankly, it's a pain in the ass as far as I'm concerned. So. It's just that's hard work to do, especially when your buddies are around, they're doing something. Hey, Dom, what's going on? I can't. I'm doing this for my dad's website. What? You're doing what? And it's the weekend. Everybody's going to the pool. You get major kudos from me, buddy.
But
kudos.
I think it's a choice. If 85% of that work is tedious, and I'm only on post 55 and I got 130 to go, right? and you start focusing on that, the tedious nature of it, you're never going to get it done. Or you're going to get it done and be burnt out at the end.
Well, do you think he understands the grind now?
Yeah.
I think he understands the grind now.
What you got to focus on is the launch. And we just put something out in the world, which who the hell knows what this is going to do.
Yeah.
But maybe some people will get some value out of it. So without doing that grind, that tedious stuff, you never get to putting something out in the world.
And he's also learning the grit end of it, too.
And there's a skill there.
Yeah, exactly. It's this invaluable experience that you're gaining. By the way, something that I would strongly suggest that other 14, 15, 16, and 17-year-olds
Do something.
start doing. High school.
Earn a buck.
So, well, thank you, gentlemen. I think this is another good podcast, and we're signing off now. We will see you next week, where we will be producing 2 more.
Good job.
All right. Good job, everybody. Have a good week. Thank you.